Okay, so in his recent interview with Vaush, Kyle slipped up and was caught reinventing political history in order to describe an alleged dilemma he had in having to choose between Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama as the Democratic nominee back in 2008. This was originally going to be part of a much larger video, where I dive into the problem with Kyle's redundant and completely predictable political analysis, which is really just conjecture, based on a false and lazy way of viewing politics. However, it makes more sense to break this out into its own video. Before we get started, please consider subscribing, hitting the notification bell icon, and becoming a Patreon supporter if you enjoy these videos. Are you ready?
Here we go!
So here is the conversation in question.
This is Hillary. Now, believe it or not, people are going to be surprised to hear this. I actually struggled with who to vote for between Obama and Hillary at the time, and here's why. Hillary in 2008 in the primary was openly running on single-payer healthcare. Barack Obama was not running on single-payer healthcare, but Barack Obama was openly against the Iraq War, and Hillary was not. So I had to weigh, like, okay, I care about both these issues like equally, like they're equally important to me, but
there is just one problem with this scenario. Hillary didn't run on single-payer. Not even close. She ran on the mandate, which is why progressives generally aligned with Obama over Clinton, once it was down to these two. In fact, when the public option couldn't get past the Senate, thanks to independent Joe Lieberman, who had, by the way, endorsed John McCain.
A minute left. The House passed health care. What do you think of the bill they passed? And do you still intend, if there is a public option and if there's this tax on so-called Cadillac health plans, will you support a Republican filibuster on final passage in the Senate?
Well, there's some good things in the House passed plan. You know, I think we ought to do health care reform this year to deal with the two great problems that President Obama and others have talked about. There are unsustainable, continuing increases in the cost of health care. We've got to stop that. And there are millions of Americans who don't have health insurance. But I'm afraid that our colleagues in the House added a lot onto that subtract from the genuine purposes of health care reform. And one was to create a public option plan. The public option plan is unnecessary. It has been put forward, I'm convinced, by people who really want the government to take over all of health insurance. They got a right to do that. I think that would be wrong. But worse than that, we have a problem even greater than the health insurance problems, and that is a debt. $12 trillion today, projected to be $21 trillion in 10 years.
So at this point, I take it you're a no vote in the Senate.
If the public option plan is in there, as a matter of conscience, I will not allow this bill to come to a final vote, because I believe the debt can break America and send us into a recession that's worse than the one we're fighting our way out of today. I don't want to do that to our children and grandchildren.
Senator Lieberman, thank you.
Obama fell back on the mandate, and he was flamed for pushing Hillary's far less desirable option for expanding coverage.
Well, under my plan, the American Health Choices Plan, which is based on choices that will become available to Americans by opening up the congressional plan. I think it's time that Americans had access to the same health care choices that members of Congress and federal employees do. And it'll also be based on shared responsibility, that everybody's going to have to do something. Individuals, businesses, our health care providers, and of course the drug and insurance companies are going to have to dramatically change the way they do business as well. And in my plan, we have about half of what it will take to reach universal health care by taking those savings. And I want those savings dedicated to providing health care to every American. Because when we get electronic medical records, something that I'm working on that I passed through the Senate last year, we will save, it is estimated, $77 billion a year. And I want that money to go into what I'm proposing, which are health care tax credits, so that individuals who cannot afford the health care plans that they will now have access to will get a health care tax credit that will enable them to do so, as will small business. So my plan will take that money and put it back in the system so that we can begin to have truly affordable quality health care for every single American.
Every expert has said that anybody who wants health care under my plan will be able to obtain it. President Clinton's own Secretary of Labor has said that my plan does more to reduce costs and, as a consequence, make sure that the people who need health care right now, all across Ohio, all across Texas, Rhode Island, Vermont, all across America, will be able to obtain it. And we do more to reduce costs than any other plan that's been out there. Now, I have no objection to Senator Clinton thinking that her approach is superior, but the fact of the matter is that if, as we've heard tonight, we still don't know how Senator Clinton intends to enforce a mandate, and if we don't know the level of subsidies that she's going to provide, then you can have a situation, which we're seeing right now in the state of Massachusetts, where people are being fined for not having purchased health care, but choose to accept the fine because they still can't afford it even with the subsidies. And they are then worse off. They then have no health care and are paying a fine above and beyond that. That is a genuine difference between myself and Senator Clinton. And the last point I would make is the insurance companies actually are happy to have a mandate. The insurance companies don't mind making sure that everybody has to purchase their product. That's not something they're objecting to. The question is, are we going to make sure that it is affordable for everybody? And that's my goal when I'm President of the United States. We don't want to put in a situation in which on the front end we are mandating them, we are forcing them to purchase insurance, and if the subsidies are inadequate, the burden is on them and they will be penalized. And that is what Senator Clinton's plan does. Now, I am happy to have a discussion with Senator Clinton about how we can both achieve the goal of universal health care. What I do not accept, and which is what Senator Clinton has consistently done, and in fact, the same experts she cites basically say there's no real difference between our plans, that they are not substantial. But it has to do with how we are going to achieve universal health care. That is an area where I believe that if we make it affordable, people will purchase it. In fact, Medicare Part B is not mandated. It is voluntary, and yet people over 65 choose to purchase it, Hillary. And the reason they choose to purchase it is because it's a good deal. And if people in Cleveland or anywhere in Ohio end up seeing a plan that is affordable for them, I promise you they are snatching it up because they are desperate to get health care, and that's what I intend to provide as president.
So how do we square Kyle's claim that this was one of the variables he had to weigh when deciding between Clinton and Obama, with the fact that this isn't true, not even remotely true? Clinton's plan was not only not single-payer, it was further away from single-payer than Obama's public option. That seems entirely suspect to me, and makes me think that Kyle retroactively fabricated this alleged dilemma, for the sake of a conversation piece. This is, unfortunately, part of a much larger pattern with Kyle's video content. And that will be the subject of an upcoming video.